There is minimal maintenance that you need to do on a scroll saw machine, but I am going to show you how to wax your table. So whether it's a new machine that you've just gotten or an old used machine or maybe one that you've had in your garage for a long time, we're going to give it a little refresh. It protects the surface of the table and also makes it a little smoother so that it's easier for the material to slide across it. I'm also going to show you how to install a blade, how to tell which direction the blade goes up and down, and then a way you can double check that your blade is straight up and down and square to the table. So let's get started. Since I have a layer of wax that I put on about a year ago, I'm going to start by sanding my table just a little bit. This is 320 grit sandpaper. So if you have an older scroll saw or a saw that you know has had some wax on it, go ahead and give it a light sanding to start. If you have a new machine, you can skip the sanding part. This is just making sure I have a smooth surface to start with. Here's where I found kind of a raised part. I think there's just a little bit of leftover glue residue or something. When the whole tabletop has been sanded, I'm going to take a scrap cloth and just wipe off any dust and debris that's left on the table. And then I have this container of paste wax. I'm going to take a little bit on another clean cloth, or you can use paper towels, and just smooth a thin layer of this all over the table. You want to make sure that you don't use anything with silicone in it because that can actually interact with finishes that you might use on your wood later. Once the table is covered, let it dry for about 5 to 10 minutes and then come back with a clean cloth or new paper towels and buff out the entire surface. You can see here that as I rub over the existing wax, it gets a little bit shiny and it gets a lot smoother. You can actually feel as you rub your hand over it that this part is smooth, and then where it hasn't been buffed yet is still kind of rough or tacky. Make sure to get down along the edges of the table and just keep doing this until the whole top of the table is smooth. Now we can put in a blade. If you're using a larger blade, you can probably tell just by looking at it which direction the teeth are pointing. And you want to insert the blade so that the teeth are pointing down. If you're using a Flying Dutchman blade, then they actually have a little crimp at the very top, so that way you can tell which side is up and which side is down. So you're going to thread the blade down in through the hole of the table and secure it with the screw down here. And then you'll come back up and do the top part of the blade. Remember to have your tension down, and this is going to be really floppy, and that's fine. Bring the tension up to about 4, let it sit for a couple of seconds, and then release the tension back down again. And I do this when I'm putting in a new blade just to make sure if there's any stretch that needs to come out of it, that takes care of it. So then you unscrew it, screw it back on, and if you hear this nice little high-pitched sound, you know that it's ready to cut. We want to make sure that our blade is completely square or perpendicular to our table. So I have this tiny little square tool here, and I've put a piece of MDF behind the blade so it's easier for you to see. If you look closely, you can see there is a little gap between the blade and the metal square as it gets down close to the table. So we will go underneath the table. This knob here, right now the marker is pointed at 0, but we need to adjust that just a little bit. So loosen up the knob and just barely tap upwards on the right side of the table, and then secure that knob by twisting it to the right. Now we're going to check the blade again with our little square tool. And it looks like we got it just right. It's touching the side of the metal all the way down. All right, and with that, you have a scroll saw that's ready to use.